This is Gary Geiman with the Dominate the Day podcast. The purpose of this podcast is to help you get 1% better in your business, provide clarity, and give you some ideas that will help you grow your business. If you're ready to dominate the day, let's go.
Dominate the day, that's what we're about to do. If you don't want to dominate, then this podcast ain't for you. But if you are, then keep listening, cause every single damn day, the mission is to dominate. You already know we're here to dominate the day. So if you want to dominate every day, then let's go, it's time to grow. This is another episode of Dominate the Day.
What's going on, Dominate Nation? It's your boy Gary Geiman. We're here with our new format that I've been talking about for the past couple days, and I have a very, very special guest, a good friend of mine, because every interview we do is going to be a friend of mine. Not a friend of ours, friend of mine. Mafia reference, you don't get it. That's just too bad. But friend of mine, and I believe she's going to bring you a ton of value, especially my entrepreneurs that are just starting out and like learning how to sell, convince, make more money. It's what it's all about, right? So to the podcast today, we have Sonya Ray, all the way from the warm, lovely, beautiful state of Arizona. By the way, are you originally from Arizona? You're not, right? You're like
No.
Northeastern chick, went to Arizona.
No, I'm like out of the country chick that came to the United States.
Okay.
I was born in Germany. I'm an army brat, both parents, both sides.
Nice.
Yeah.
So entire childhood or just part of your childhood?
Part of my childhood.
Okay.
So both parents were in the army, so we traveled quite a bit, and then lived in California for a little while, Nevada, and then been in Arizona now. I believe is the longest stint of time I've been here. And honestly, it hasn't been very warm out here. We've been having cold freezes, and some of y'all a lot warmer than us. So I won't hear it.
I mean, you're in Phoenix, so you can't even complain.
38 degrees.
Like your cold freezes, it gets to 30. Like, I wish that was our cold freeze was 30. But yeah, cool. So I did not know that about you. I did not know that you lived in Germany for a little bit. How long were you in Germany?
Pretty much, I'm going to say till I was 8 years old. I even spoke German fluently, apparently. I went to German schools. I had a German nanny. So, yeah. But when I said apparently, reason being is I didn't find out till later on in my adult age that I even was able to do that because I had such a fucked up childhood that I forgot a lot of my shit. So, yeah, complete foreign language just gone.
I mean, that's what makes us high-performing individuals so great is the fucked up childhood. Like, if you don't have a fucked up childhood, how can you be great as an adult? Like, you got to face some adversity, learn how to overcome adversity, persevere. Boom, here we are, right? And so my audience obviously does not know who you are, and so we just found out a little bit about your childhood and, being an army brat and all of that. But besides the fact that you're probably one of the few girls that I know that appreciates a cigar.
And a badass car.
Yeah, we'll disagree on that. But, and you like to take very cold baths. Tell us a little bit about, like, your journey to getting into the entrepreneur space and kind of a background about you so we can get to know you.
Gotcha. Let's see. Journey on the entrepreneurial space. I was actually reflecting a little bit on that earlier. I started that off when I was young. Like, I don't know about you, but like it wasn't elementary school. I'll take that back. No, I think in elementary school, I was doing like the candy thing. Selling candy at school.
Yeah.
And then in middle school, and this is where I'll age myself, I was selling those friendship bracelets. Yeah.
I mean, you didn't age yourself too much. You're younger than me, so yeah.
Not by much, though. I'm serious. It's not by much. Think about it this way. My son this month is going to be 27 years old, and I did not have him when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
So not going to share my age because women don't share their age. So I'll stick with that stereotype. But anyhow, so but before that too, like shoot, I have been working since I was young as well. Like I got my first job at a huge food corporation when I was 10. And that's because I think because my stepdad was the number one sales guy. So like, sure, we'll let her work.
Yeah.
So I was working doing that. I've been a waitress. I have been an accountant. I've been a bartender. I've been in the mortgage industry. I used to sell precious metals, gold and silver. And then it wasn't until, my later years as like I just ended up going full board, just entrepreneurial and going into real estate and such like that. And had definite ups and downs, but I've been still with it and going along with it now for 5 years.
So one thing that you kind of glossed over, but it is the backbone of most of what you've done. It's the backbone of what I've done. And I always say, like, this is a skill as a business owner you have to develop. And you're very you're one of the people that I consider to be good at it, and that is sales, right? So much so that you actually coach people. You have a coaching group where you help them develop their sales skills.
Yep.
And so talk a little bit about that. Like, obviously selling candy bars. I sold candy bars too. I mean, I hated that shit, but you look back at it, knocking on the door. Hey, will you buy my candy bar? That probably sucks.
Oh no, I'm talking about it. I sell it at school.
Oh, okay. Even better.
Yeah. So my return on investment was huge.
Yeah. Yeah. So selling the candy, obviously being a waitress, being a bartender, those are all sales oriented positions, because if people don't like you, they're not going to tip you. And it's part of the sales funnel to know, like, and trust. So looking into that sales world that you've been in for a long time. I mean, you rattled off a ton of jobs that were either sales jobs or they were sales related jobs.
Right.
Or
got into it because I was good at selling myself, in a sense,
right.
where I had a job when I was 12 years old working at a dentist place, doing their books for their insurance on their cards.
Wow.
I didn't interview for that. I didn't do anything, but I sold myself in, like, hey, I was a responsible 12-year-old being able to handle your paperwork.
Right. So talk a little bit about that. I mean, that's pretty impressive by itself, obviously. But talk a little bit about that, like the sales journey and where you started, what you learned, and then where you're at now, where you're actually helping others develop their sales skills.
Right. So as I had said before too, my stepdad was a salesman. His brothers were salesmen. So I grew up around that. And that was like around when I was 8 years old. My stepdad was in my life. So a long time of that. And then as well too, just movies. Movies have been a huge part of learning more with sales. Like Boiler Room is my number one sales movie.
Number one all time.
There we go.
Not even a chance.
Thank
not
you.
even a chance.
Thank you. And if you don't know, if you've never seen it, you're in sales, you are doing yourself a disservice. Stop this thing now and go watch that freaking movie.
Go watch it. Absolutely. Yeah. It's got to be on Netflix or Prime. Like,
well, you could buy it. I ended up buying it.
Oh, I own it. It's in my Prime library. Like, there are so many skills to sales in that movie that you can't not learn by watching. I think number 2 is probably Jerry Maguire. Yes. But I mean, the part where he's on the phone and he's trying to get the people to talk to him so he can yell Recco, and he gets the doctor to say, "Tell me a little bit more about that stock." And he yells Recco, and Vin Diesel comes over and does a classic. I mean, he slow played that doctor the whole way through. And sure, like, it looked really sleazy, but let's be honest. At the end of the day, that is the sales process. You let them talk, you answer questions, you let them talk, you ask them questions, you let them talk. And, I've always learned, tell me if you've heard this too, I'm sure you have, the first person who talks loses, right? And Vin Diesel showed that really, really well. One of my favorite lines of that movie, and Me and a buddy of mine, we say it all the time, is 2,000? 2,000? Tell me, why only 2,000? Right?
Yeah. Which is basically, it's that classic anchoring. So I would say another really great sales book out there, one of my number ones that when people ask me about sales book, is Never Split the Difference by Chris
Yeah.
Voss. Really great book. It's got tons of nuggets in there that you can apply in any type of sales that you do. So back to everything else. Crap, we went on a sideways tangent.
Because that was my fault. So yeah, I mean, we were just basically that's what I do. So talking about the sales journey, the journey you had getting to like where you're at today, where you're coaching others, and developing your process. I don't know about you, but you know, my first like real sales job where I got paid was selling lawn care, and I look back at when I did that when I was 19 versus how I sell now. You know, been selling for over 30 years. So I have a comfort. Like there's a comfort where I'm sure you've watched people like have call reluctance.
I don't get that.
And neither do I, but I've seen people have it, right?
Yeah, it's a real thing. I was like, just pick up the phone. Like, I'll call anybody. Like,
right.
I don't care what you sell. Like, give me on the phone. I'll call them. I don't care if I know them. I don't need to know their backstory. Just give me the number. Give me the person's name. Done. So
what is it that you think that got you to that point? Because I mean, I'm there too. I'm not afraid to call anybody and have a hard conversation or, you know, ask the question. And I know you're not as well. What is it that you think that got you to that point, being able to do that, where there's others like, I mean, I've literally watched somebody stare at the phone for 2 hours.
Honestly, I don't know a point of time where I was ever intimidated by it, honestly, because one of my number one human needs is, like Tony Robbins talks about, is growth. So like, it shows into with like my other stuff that I do, like I do, as you call it, the cold baths, my cold plunge, you know, I do those things, you know, I'm at 43 degrees and I will dunk my head under, unlike what Ryan Stewman tries to say, where women don't go underneath the water because they're worried about their hair. No, it's the first thing I do. As soon as I get that water, bam, my head is going under.
You know, I did a cold plunge one time. Our hot water was out. And I had to take a shower.
There's a difference.
It was the worst thing in the world. But sorry. Go
no. I just to say the cold showers is actually pretty easy compared to a cold plunge. If you do a cold plunge and then take a cold shower, it's kind of interesting because the shower actually feels warm.
Yeah, that did not feel warm that day. And come to find out, our hot water heater was leaking. So we could have fixed it if I would have just been paying attention. I went out and had a cold shower that day, but I digress once again. Let's talk about, so you and I both have, we're both high level salespeople. There's a lot of business owners that aren't, and that's fine. Like there's nothing wrong with that, right? But let's talk about like, and I'll give you mine after you do yours, but because ladies first. Let's talk about where we feel our strengths, where your strength is in the sales process. You know, if you break the process down, everybody wants to be the stone cold closer, and sure, like, yeah. But before the close, you know, there's the introduction, there's that, you can call it a bunch of different things, the Q&A, the process, the process, the approval to get to go to the next step, or the delivery of the solution. Like, you get it, like, tell us where you feel you excel in that process and why.
My overall, honestly, favorite thing is motivation. It's finding out why. Why are they even looking in the first place? Why are they even considering this? That phone is ringing. Why are they even considering this in the first place? Like, why are they considering this in the first place? But the other thing too is, and this is like one of my favorite things that I do teach on when I do teach this, is when we talk about motivation, we don't stay surface level. We're taking it that next step deep. So they might tell you, oh, so here, I'm going to relate this to like real estate. Somebody's looking to possibly sell their property. They're saying, oh, I'm looking to downsize. Well, that's surface level. So now I'm going to ask them an impact question, or some say Socratic. So when you say downsize, what do you mean? Because downsizing to me can be something else different than you. So the other part of things too is I enjoy finding out how they view the world and how they see things. Because once you understand that and how they see stuff, it's so much more easier to give them the solution in order to move them the next step forward on things.
That's a good point. Understanding why you're on that call, and it's their why, not your why, right? Is huge. I feel like I'm probably in the middle of either like providing the solution or asking the. I take that back. My strength in the sales process is asking the questions based upon what they're doing, so we can get to the root of their problem. A little bit different than what you're saying. Like, you're talking about the why, right? And sure, what I'm talking about kind of loosely. But if you think about it, every sales call has a problem, right? And it's you're finding out from that kind of human level, like what it is they need, what it is they want, right? If I was selling a dating service to a dude, I know what he wants, right? But when you're selling it to a woman, like, there could be multiple reasons why, because women are just so much more of a complex person than us men. And so you have to really dive deep. And in dealing with business owners, a lot of times newer business owners, like, I try to like look at or determine what they've done already, what they've tried. Because it's typical, like in my space, you'll hear this doesn't work or that doesn't work. And what I really believe is it just means you didn't do it right. Like, I've done types of marketing that don't work for me. It doesn't mean they don't work. And so I like to drill down and hear the pain. I always want them to kind of live in that pain again, so that they can help. They can see me helping them get rid of that pain. Right. But very interesting how you take it to the want, and you're right. Like, downsizing is a great analogy related, especially to meaning something different for everybody. Like, for some people, downsizing just means I want a smaller place so I don't have to do all the stupid stuff that I do on a bigger place. Doesn't mean I want a less expensive place. Right. Just means I want less square footage. Right. Some people, downsizing means I want to eliminate some debt. I don't want to have as much of a payment, right? And so finding out what that means at the core helps you be able to then say, okay, great. So here's what I think I can do for you, right?
Right. Because now we're getting to the root of the issue. The same thing. It's almost the same thing too. Like when you're having a medical issue or whatnot, how are you going to solve that? You get to the root of the problem. You don't just like, oh, I've got a headache, I'm going to take some aspirin. That's not, it's not a solution. It's a quick Band-Aid. I rather have a solution. Let's get it done.
Yeah, probably not everybody's solution is stop eating sugar, but that's mostly my solution for every health problem is just don't eat sugar, Gary. So, doctors, they're just such non-fun people. Really, like, don't smoke, don't drink, don't eat sugar. Like, you're fun at parties. You know what I mean?
Hey, I am fun at parties, though. I don't.
But you're not a doctor. I
know, but so much studying that I have done with like alternative medicines, because that was the other thing too. Like, the reason being I got into cold plunging and stuff like that was to help, because I've got 2 different autoimmune challenges, and one of them I've had for 13 years now. Wow. And all doctors want to do, they're not even very educated, unfortunately, say in nutrition. So they don't even go that route. All they want to do is just throw pills down your throat and see you in about a month. They just want to manage what you've got going on. They don't ever really want to fix. So
Yeah.
that's like one of my passion things is I go towards with finding a natural solution for things, a natural alternative solution. So it's not always going to be this cookie cutter sort of thing.
Yeah. So let's take a little bit of a side, go down a side road for a second, because you brought up something, and a lot of people don't realize how strong my willpower is. So Sonya and I were in a mastermind together. We actually had another friend. His name is Scott, who lives in Colombia, and Scott likes to put weird things up his nose. And these two asked me. We were at a meetup. Gary, would you like to put tobacco up your nose? And what was my response to that?
No.
Hell no. I mean,
Hell no.
People think that they can peer pressure me, and what they don't understand is, like, I invented peer pressure. Like, I am the reason why people make bad decisions, and I just wasn't making that bad decision. But speaking of that, tell us a little bit about that experience, because it's very like, I'm never going to do it, but it's very interesting to hear. And Scott is one of those guys that he's done a ton of shit, and I think he and I are having a conversation next week, and
there you
I'm
go.
on his podcast, he's on my podcast, kind of thing. But Scott is one of those people that, two things about him that I love. Number one is he is one of the most calm and most collected individuals. Like, there could be a bomb go off, and he'd be like, well, what we probably should do is find the nearest exit.
That's so spot on too.
Right?
Like, I know Scott too as well. So it's just so funny. Like, I know all these other people listening to this, like, who the hell is this Scott guy? But yeah.
And the other thing about Scott is he has crazy good perspective. He's younger than both of us, probably by 20 years.
He's younger than my son. What are you talking about?
Yeah. So, but he has crazy good perspective. And so we're not knocking Scott. And if
no.
He knows we're not. So tell us a little bit about that experience, and like what the quote unquote benefits were for the audience.
Okay. So in regards to this type of medicine, it's they've been using it for years upon years, and it helps with grounding and just being more spiritual. So that's another thing too. Like, I ground every day. I've been doing that now for almost 4 years, but this is just another way in order to do that. So it was just very interesting. I didn't realize the mega dose that Scott had given me until the other day when I did combo. And that's another thing. I did an alternative medicine. It's a frog thing. So I had that stuff again put in my nose.
These two people talking to the very rooted Pentecostal, Jesus loving freak, but I curse a lot. And they're telling me this stuff. This is okay. I've never smoked pot. Like, I haven't even looked at anything illicit when it comes to drugs. Not that this is, but they're like saying, oh, this, all that. And all I'm thinking in my head is, like, Jesus ain't going to like that. He is not going to like it.
It's from the earth.
But anyway.
It's the same. It's like, I'm
just telling you, like,
I'm from the earth. Jesus made it.
I'm very weird.
Yes, we all know that one.
So, Jesus made wine too, and I love some wine.
See? And that was his first thing too. Like,
I think he made tequila first, but go ahead.
No, I'm saying his first miracle was water into wine.
That was recorded.
That's true.
Could have made tequila. I feel tequila comes straight from God. I really believe that.
I disagree on that one. Totally disagree, but that's okay. So yeah, no, just a lot of this stuff is actually, from the earth.
Mm-hmm.
And this, again, like the tobacco is from the earth, or like there's some other stuff too that Brother Scott and I do as well, is like some mind expanding stuff like the psilocybin. So again,
and then there's a quarterback in the NFL who just went on a journey, and he's done some stuff like Scott has done, and they, I believe, I can't speak for them. I believe it's because it helps them get into a spiritual realm or be in touch with that. I've heard, it's funny because I was telling my wife this, like, of all the people that I could meet when I got into this mastermind, the second meetup, I meet this guy, Scott, who is absolutely and totally different from me.
Yes.
But we hit it off. Like we turned into close friends. We message all the time. He refers me business. I mean, it is an episode of The Odd Couple by far. I mean, but cool dude. And I'm not too fuddy duddy to where I can't hear about some of this stuff and understand it. There's only one thing I do with tobacco, and that's smoke it.
Smoke it
and
as a
usually it's in
cigar.
a cigar wrapper.
You can turn the cigar the other way around and blow the smoke out of it, and then the smoke lines can show the meridian points in the body.
She just takes it and seriously. But hey, this is what though perspective can do in terms of what you do with something, how somebody else does something else with it, and it creates a totally different type of experience. If you think about that in the entrepreneur space, because everybody's thinking, how's he going to turn that around? But if you think about it in the entrepreneur space, two different people can take the same problem and go at it in different ways, sometimes with good results, but sometimes with bad results, right? And so understanding what others have done before you, and this is probably one of the biggest lessons that I've learned from Scott, a guy who's 20 years plus younger than me, but a lesson that I've learned from Scott, and then I continue to learn it from my man Alex Hormozy, is like not paying the dumb tax over and over and over again. We know that there are options or opportunities that exist on this journey, and we know like what can work and what won't work because others have tried the shit and made it work, or many others have tried things that don't work. So like we know that, right?
Dominate the day. That's what we're about to do. If you don't want to dominate, then this podcast ain't for you. But if you are, then keep listening. Cause every single damn day, the mission is to dominate. You already know. We're here to dominate the day. So if you want to dominate every day, then let's go. It's time to grow. This is another episode of Dominate the Day.